I am Dr. Rupesh Kumar, consultant epidemiologist from ICMR NIE. I am presenting on framing eligibility criteria. This session is continuation of Dr. Rizwan sessions on framing a review question. We are in second stage of systematic review now. So we are going to frame eligibility criteria. So as everyone says, that in the systematic review, each and every step is interlinked to the previous one. For example, this step, especially framing the eligibility criteria, is essential for this two steps called full text screening and also title abstract screening. Okay. After this session, we should understand the importance of framing a clearly defined eligibility criteria, and also we should be able to frame the eligibility criteria for various types of research questions. I hope you all can recollect the research questions, types of research questions taught by Dr. Rizwan in previous sessions. So, eligibility criteria. Basically, these eligibility criteria, but so far in this webinar, just because of the chat discussion what we had, I am aware that many of the research is not new for many of us here. So in any hospital-based studies or community-based studies, we used to have a inclusion and exclusion criteria, right, for selecting the study participants. Similarly, we have eligibility criteria to include the studies for the systematic review. It has two components, inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. So inclusion criteria should clearly define what are the characteristics of the study should contain to include for the systematic review to address our research question. Similarly, exclusion criteria should define the characteristics of the study to be excluded for a review. So basically, we should follow one rule called we should avoid mirroring while framing this eligibility criteria. We will discuss this in due course of time with some live examples and also some practical sessions. So I will say why eligibility criteria is very, very important. As we discussed earlier, we have a research question now. We want to generate the evidence for our research question. That's why we are doing a systematic review. Okay. So already there are several millions of articles available in the website or database, whatever. We cannot handpick each and every article and see whether it is available, whether it matches our research question or not. To make that simple, we will be forming a search strategy and search in selected databases. These steps will be taken by our colleagues in upcoming session. Let us consider a hypothetical situation. We have a research question. Now, we framed a search strategy. Now, we search the literature. So consider we got some X number of articles after applying the search strategy by searching in a multiple databases like PubMed, Embase, etc. So not all these X articles will be eligible for our research question. So we'll be having certain eligibility criteria to filter that for our research question. So we are going to see how it is very useful for our review. Basically, it's a kind of checklist, like checking whether it satisfies these specific criteria can be included, whether it satisfied the specific criteria can be excluded. So it's basically matching the criteria with the PICO. As Dr. Rizwan mentioned earlier, PICO is population, intervention, comparative, outcome, and there is another called S&T, which includes study design as well as the time period. We will go through one by one. So there are many reviews which wanted to address the specific group of population. For example, one of the example earlier which was discussed as the review question, what is the prevalence of dental caries among the children aged 5 to 15 years? So in this review question, we want to address the disease which is specific for the age group, which is 5 to 15 years. So the population group contains age, gender, population groups, ethnicity, and population group, ethnicity, etc. and population with specific diseases, for example, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, people with gingivitis, people with dental caries, etc. So while while preparing for this session, we have come across many systematic reviews in oral health, which talks mainly about the children and adolescents. So actually, the oral health systematic review is majorly focused on children and adolescent groups. But I would like to discuss something which is gender-specific criteria, like pregnancy-related reviews majorly focus, of course, only females, and also some cancers review, and also occupational hazard focuses male population predominantly. So after this is intervention. So if one should know the effect of intervention, for example, I have come across a title called Antibiotics for Post-Extraction Bleeding. So the reviewer wants to know about which antibiotic suits best for the post-extraction bleeding. Sometimes we also compare the two interventions, as we seen the example, like green tea mouthwash versus chlorhexidine mouthwash or placebo. So if you want to compare two treatments through an intervention, so it should be included in the eligibility criteria. And next thing is outcome. In a systematic review, the outcome should be a health-related event. We should not have a non-health-related event as an outcome. I will say a few examples for this health-related event. It can be in either two ways. It can be a cure, it can be a death, for example, mortality and any morbidity-related events. It can be a duration of the hospital stay as an outcome. For example, we have come across many studies related to COVID which has a duration of the hospital stay, median duration of the hospital stay as an outcome. Okay. So it can be due to symptom-free days. The outcome can be symptom-free days, but everything should be defined explicitly in the protocol. Dr. Rizwan will be discussing the protocol and everything in the later part of the study about the Prospero also. At that time, we will be getting some better idea about it. And next is some regional-specific reviews or country-specific reviews. If your research question has some region or country-specific things, you should describe it in the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Time period. So we have seen some few chat discussion mentioning what time period to be considered and all. So in general, we consider the time period for two things. First, if you want to update an existing systematic review, for example, you found a review which was done on 2003, for example, 2003, and you found that you feel that there is a need to update that evidence, so you can do a review from 2004 to till date. So for that, the time period is essential. And second thing, if you want to address a common topic where there are many literature and you don't want to do review for the lifetime, there is a thumb rule to follow 10 years. You can do the review for 10 years. So if you review specifically for a certain time period, you should include that in the criteria. Next thing is study designs. The study designs should be relevant to the research question. For example, prevalence types of research question is best addressed by cross-sectional surveys, whereas the interventional studies is best addressed by a randomized clinical trials. So selecting the study design is also very, very essential. Apart from that, language. There are published literature available in French, German, Spanish, Mandarin, etc. So if you want to include only English articles, you should mention that in a protocol as well as in the eligibility criteria explicitly. So if you want to also include articles from French or German, if you feel that this specific area of interest, if you aware that you may find better articles and research in German or French language, you can include that language, but also you should find a way to translate the research back to the English. Everything should be mentioned in the protocol. Basically, the protocol is a kind of legal document. That's why we would be registering it in the Prospero to maintain the transparency. So whatever the thing mentioned in the protocol is considered as final, we should follow that strictly. So now we are going to frame eligibility criteria for certain review questions. This is a study which has a prevalence type of research question which we discussed earlier. So even the participants can post the answers in the chat box now. It will be like, I would like to, let's make this session is very interactive. No, this is kind of discussion. Okay. So as I said earlier, this review question is prevalence type of review question. So just see what is the population here. The population age criteria is mentioned as 5 to 15, but not the gender specific. So it is kind of age specific, 5 to 15 years, and also region specific. WHO Southeast Asia region. The disease of interest is dental caries, and outcome. The main outcome should be prevalence. Prevalence of dental caries is the major outcome. So it's a kind of population is 5 to 15 years. Let's see the inclusion criteria, what the authors have made. So it's a published literature. We will share the references later. So the inclusion criteria the authors decided was children aged between 5 to 15 years. They would include the study designs was only cross-sectional surveys. So let us assume we are framing the search strategy now. So the published literature will be like 10 years from that day to day. So Jan 1st to March 1021. So in the upcoming session, Dr. Gilbert will teach how to filter the database and all. So, and also they included the language criteria and region criteria also, English language and Sierra countries. Instead of saying Sierra countries, you can mention the countries like India, Bhutan, etc. So, sometime before we discussed the word called mirroring, right? So we should not write the exclusion criteria as we will exclude the studies contain adult as population. We will exclude the non-cross-sectional surveys. We should not frame the exclusion criteria like this. If you frame the exclusion criteria like this, it is termed as mirroring. Instead of that, just see the exclusion criteria here, which is more specific. The authors decided to exclude the studies conducted in special populations, like those who are diseased, already had some certain disease or syndromes, and also they would not like to have prevalence of dental caries measured as a second objective. So they wanted to include the studies which should have a prevalence of dental caries as a primary objective. Okay, so the next thing is, and also they did not want to include the studies which did not use any objective method to assess the dental caries. Okay, actually they anticipated that there will be some subjective methods to assess the dental caries, so they made such specific exclusion criteria. And also the studies assessing the dental caries in association with other variables. So you can see there is no mirroring at all. The exclusion criteria is highly specific. Let us consider an hypothetical example. While doing the review, I got an article which answers the prevalence of dental caries among 5 to 15 years of diabetic population in India. I repeat it, prevalence of dental caries among 5 to 15 years diabetic population in India. So let's run the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Children aged above 5 to 15, yes, it is there. It's a cross-sectional survey, yes, it is there. Yes, it's a study conducted between the time period, yes, eligible. It is published in English and in India, eligible. So we see the exclusion criteria. It is a special population because it has conducted among the diabetics. So we have to exclude that. So this is the importance of inclusion and exclusion criteria. I want to reiterate that exclusion criteria should be more specific. This is another research question which is intervention type. What is the clinical efficacy of green tea mouthwashes on dental plaques and gingival inflammation compared to chlorhexidine or placebo? So here the Reviewers wanted to compare the clinical efficacy of green tea mouthwash against that chlorhexidine or placebo mouthwash. Generally, we would compare the newer thing with the standard treatment, right? I guess chlorhexidine mouthwash is kind of standard treatment. They are comparing the new entity, green tea mouthwash. Let's see, here the population, did they mention any population here? I think the population should be like a person with dental plaques and gingival infection. What is the intervention here? The intervention is green tea mouthwash. Let's see the criteria here. So they made the inclusion criteria as participants with dental plaques and gingivitis. There is no restriction for age and gender. Study design is RCT because it's an intervention and clinical trial. RCT is the relevant study design. Just see, they mentioned randomized clinical trials. It means they won't consider non-randomized or some non-randomized clinical trials for this study. The intervention should be green tea mouthwash only. So green tea should be given as mouthwash. So comparator arm, it's either chlorhexidine or placebo mouthwash only. It's like mouthwash. So it's basically intervention and placebo both should have mouthwash as the intervention. The exclusion criteria what they gave was studies using green tea in any other form apart from mouthwash will not be considered. See, they are very specific about the intervention. So here also there is no mirroring for inclusion as well as exclusion criteria. This is the last example we'd like to see. This is association review. The reviewers wanted to see the association between the smokeless tobacco use and various cancers among adults in India. I can see they wanted to be population specific adults, and the outcome was cancers. They did not mention what cancer, various cancers. The exposure here is smokeless tobacco. Let's see what was the eligible criteria they mentioned. So as we discussed, the population should be Indian, adult Indian. So as it is a country-based study, adult Indian men and women, exposures are only any form of smokeless tobacco. The comparator arm may contain a general population or patient with different condition, but not any associated tobacco use. They wanted to see any oral cancer cavity as the outcome. The relevant study designs, what they chose was observational studies, basically. So let's see the exclusion criteria. They made the exclusion criteria as a study without computed risk ratio or odds ratio. Sometimes we may come across studies, observational studies without the effect size called risk ratio or odds ratio, which want to establish the association, strength of association. If you found any article without the risk ratio or odds ratio, we can exclude that. So they are very specific for the effect size. And also studies reporting on precancerous lesion. So their main outcome is cancer, not a precancerous. So any study which reporting precancerous lesion can be excluded. And another one is, it is very specific, studies that have less than 50% cases confirmed by histology. So they wanted to have confirmation by histopathological examination. So for framing a inclusion and exclusion criteria, we should also want subject expertise, methodology expertise, and also domain expertise. As we discussed earlier, systematic review is a teamwork. It's not based on individual. So all the things should be, the entire process of the systematic review should go by the agreement of the team members. Okay, let's try on our own. So this is the question. I would like you to post the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria in the chat box. Let's have some practical exercise, hands-on exercise. Okay, we are opening the chat box in our system, so you can still able to see the screen. The question was, so what is the prevalence of dental erosion among battery factory workers worldwide? So they give the population as specific population they wanted to have, battery factory workers. So the health outcome was prevalence of dental erosion. The disease of interest was dental erosion. Let's see the answers here. Like population. P is battery factory workers. Very good. So as they mentioned worldwide, there is no region specific. They did not mention any gender specific also. So men and women is very good. It can be included. Population, battery workers. Objectively measured erosion, that is perfect. Is perfect. Cross-sectional surveys, yes. Yes, as it is a prevalence, so it's better to have a cross-sectional study. Let's go by some format. Let's follow the PICOTA in this also. Just type population, exposure, outcome, study design, time period and all. Let's have that practice from now onwards. Okay. We are getting some good response. Outcome is prevalence. Yes, prevalence. Very good. I'm happy that you all understand the session. Okay. P is factory workers. This is from Dr. Sai Bhargav. P is factory workers. C is normal individuals. Yes. So outcome is dental erosion. Here the C, we don't need the comparative arm here for normal individuals because cross-sectional surveys we will get the prevalence mostly. So we can avoid the comparative arm here. This protocol has been published in Prospero. This is exactly you can find it in the Prospero website. They included the studies as cross-sectional studies to access the prevalence of occupational dental erosion. See the word occupational dental erosion among the factory workers. So the main outcome was dental erosion. They included the population. They included all the relevant surveys in English language published up to May 2020, which recorded the prevalence of dental erosion among the battery factory workers using a valid index. Someone quoted some objective index. So I guess that there is some valid index for for grading the dental erosions. And see the intervention of is none. So comparator arm, it can be other population, it can be no control arm also as one expected. So the major outcome was occupational dental erosion. Well done. So let's have one more example now. Oh, fine. I don't know why the slides are skipping. Okay. So this is a kind of association review. What is the association between EBV and occurrence of cancer, right? It is. Can you see the question? Okay. Oral squamous cell carcinoma. So the outcome here is very specific. Our outcome here is oral squamous cell carcinoma. Let's see. I cannot give a chocolate for those who coined exact criteria, but I can give some applause if you coin exact eligibility criteria. So it is where it started. So it started. Oh no, next with population with EBV. Okay, EBV and oral squamous cell carcinoma associated lesions. People diagnosed with from EBV. Okay. So let's see. What is the exposure here? Exposure here is Epstein-Barr virus. So EBV is the exposure and the outcome should be oral squamous cell carcinoma. So let's see population. Let's say, yes, very good. Someone said EBV isolated in patients with histological diagnosed. Very good. This is the specific criteria. Appreciate it. So it should be like the reviewers wanted to include histopathologically confirmed oral squamous cell carcinoma and demonstrated isolated EBV. Very good. Come on, guys, post some response. Case control studies. Okay, you can generally mention like observational studies which reports effect size, mean risk ratio or odds ratio. Case control study design can be considered. Adult population. So if you want to have a specific, if you want to generate evidence only for the adult, you can consider adult I'm not sure. I'm not a subject expert. I don't know whether this EBV can cause oral squamous cell carcinoma in children or not. But if it is adult, we can make inclusion criteria as adult. Okay, patient with EBV, patient whom with or without, patient without, okay, EBV, occurrence of obscure cross-sectional or cohort. See, for any association review, we can consider observational studies. I will say there are, nowadays people started to considering case series also for the systematic reviews. I will say we can include the case series as case series in the systematic review, but it cannot be considered for the meta-analysis part. This part will be discussed in the upcoming session. Better, there should be some minimal population, study population to be considered for the review. For example, if you fix there should be minimum 50 participants in the study, you would be considered to have the high quality or high validity studies. That say study designs, case control. Okay, so someone has histopathological. Okay, what would be the major 10-year study? Okay, we can fix the time period as 10 years. Okay, let's check our answers with what is published. Guys, okay, you made a fantastic guess. So they included observational studies in English language with histopathologically diagnosed oral squamous cell carcinoma and control being the patient with the normal oral mucosa. So they excluded all the kind of reviews like narrative review and all. So they also excluded the case reports and conference abstracts and some other cancers like oropharyngeal, nasopharyngeal, head and neck cancers. The condition being studied is okay. They also excluded oral squamous cell carcinoma caused by viruses other than EBV. So actually framing the inclusion exclusion criteria is very easy, as simple as we discussed now. But definitely it needs some expert advice, and it's always best to have a third eye to validate the exclusion criteria. You can find more protocols related to oral health in this Cochrane Oral Health group. It will be discussed in the upcoming sessions. Even they have some priority topics for the review also. They have the podcasts and everything. It's a very good platform to enhance your existing knowledge. So I want to say only two things here. So whenever you frame eligibility criteria, it should be framed meticulously and try to avoid mirroring and stick to the eligibility criteria till the end of the study. Thank you for the patience listening.